Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving deep into two really fascinating and, frankly, intense concepts from India's brand new criminal code, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, or BNS for short. We're going to look at one of the most severe punishments a court can possibly hand out, and then we'll untangle one of the most psychologically complex crimes you can find on the books. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by setting the stage for this new legal era. Then we'll get into the weeds on solitary confinement, what it is, and the very strict rules around it. After that, we'll completely switch gears to talk about criminal intimidation, and we'll wrap up by digging into the psychology of what actually makes a threat a crime in the eyes of the law. All right, so you've probably heard the big news. India's entire criminal justice system has been rewritten, getting rid of those old colonial-era laws and bringing in the BNS. But what does a change that huge actually mean in the real world, for punishments and for crimes? Okay, let's get into it. We're going to start with one of the most severe punishments a judge can impose under the new BNS. It is so mentally taxing, so extreme, that its constitutionality is, constantly being debated. Now, this isn't just being in a regular jail cell. We're talking about complete and utter isolation from every other person in the prison. It's seen as an extreme measure, something reserved for crimes that already come with rigorous imprisonment, and the law has very specific reasons for why it can even be used. Now, here's a twist you might not expect. The reason for using it works both ways. Of course, it's used to isolate a dangerous person to protect the other inmates, but it can also be used to protect the criminal themselves. Think about it. In really high-profile cases that have sparked public outrage, there's a serious danger that other prisoners might try to attack those convicts, so solitary confinement can actually be a tool for their own safety. Okay, so because this punishment is so mentally devastating, studies show that even a few days of total isolation can have some really profound psychological effects. The new BNS code puts very, very strict limits on how it can be used. And here is the single most important rule. There is a hard ceiling. It doesn't matter how long the prison sentence is. It could be 10 years, it could be a life sentence. The total cumulative time a person spends in solitary can never go over 3 months. That's the absolute maximum, period. And here's how that works. It's not just some random number. The law is actually pretty smart about it. It ties the amount of solitary time you can get directly to how long your original prison sentence is. So for sentences up to 6 months, you can get a maximum of 1 month in solitary. For 6 months to a year, it's 2 months. And for anything over a year, you hit that absolute cap of 3 months. But wait, it gets even more detailed. The law doesn't just care about the total time. It cares about how that time is served. It builds in checks and balances. First, you can't be kept in isolation for more than 14 days at a single stretch. Second, after that stretch, you have to be given a break that's at least as long as the time you were in. So 10 days in means at least 10 days out. And for longer sentences, the rule is even tighter, only 7 days of solitary per month. It's all designed to try and limit the psychological damage. Okay, let's totally switch gears. So that's how the BNS handles an extreme punishment. But what about a crime that doesn't involve a physical act at all? A crime that happens entirely with words and with intent, like making a threat? Section 351 of the BNS breaks down the actual act, and it's really broad. The threat can be made in any way, face-to-face, over the phone, online. The injury doesn't have to be physical harm. It could be a threat to someone's property or their reputation. And, this is crucial, you don't even have to threaten the person you're talking to. Threatening their family, for example, is exactly the same crime. Okay, and this is where it gets really fascinating. The law moves past just the physical act of speaking and dives right into the mind of the person making the threat. It's not just about the words themselves. It's about what you were trying to achieve with those words. The big question is, what was your intention? So let's explore that mindset, because this is the single most critical piece of the puzzle. It's the make or break element that decides whether a simple threat crosses the line and becomes a serious crime. The key legal term here is alarm. And we're not just talking about being a little scared or nervous. In the eyes of the law, alarm is a state of mental distress that's so severe it could mess with the mind of a regular, reasonable person and basically paralyze their free will. The fear itself becomes the weapon. And here it is. This is the most crucial part to understand, and it comes from case law. It literally does not matter if the person you threatened was brave and didn't get scared at all. The crime is not about the victim's reaction. It's all about the offender's intent. The only question the court cares about is, did you intend to cause that paralyzing fear? This example makes it all crystal clear. Imagine two different people say the exact same four words. I'll hit you. If Softy Bai, who everyone knows is a super gentle guy, says it while laughing, there's no real intent to cause alarm. It's just a bad joke. But if Iqbal Pasina, a known violent gangster, says those same words, well, the context changes everything. His reputation alone proves the intent to cause alarm. Same words, totally different legal outcomes, all because of context. Now, people often get this confused with extortion, so let's clear that up. They both use fear, but they're very different. Extortion has a very narrow goal, to get you to hand over property or money. Criminal intimidation is much, much broader. The goal could be just to cause fear, or to make you do something, or to stop you from doing something. And most importantly, intimidation is a done deal the moment the threat is made with the right intent. For extortion, the crime isn't actually complete until the victim hands over the cash.
So what's the big picture here? What should you take away from all this? Well, these two sections show that the new BNS code is all about balance. On one hand, it gives the government huge power to punish, but on the other, it builds in these really strict safeguards to protect people. And when it comes to complex crimes, it looks past the action itself and focuses on the really tricky stuff, human psychology and intent.
Just this quick look at two sections shows you how detailed and complex the new BNS code really is. It's a legal framework built not just on rules, but on a deep understanding of psychology. And that leaves us with a really important final thought. As this new code rolls out, what other hidden details and legal nuances are going to pop up and shape the future of India's entire justice system?